Hey everybody, my name is Jim Farmer. I'm the Festival Director of Out on Film. Thank you for supporting our work. This is our 34th year of presenting films for, by, and about our community and its allies. This is our first hybrid festival. We have some great films in theater. We also have films virtually as well. So, if you feel comfortable, come to the theater, great. If not, you can watch films at home and, enjoy films like My Fiona, which is one of my absolute favorites of the year. Before I introduce or let my panelists introduce themselves, I'm going to read a description of My Fiona, and then we can jump into some questions. Best friends for life, Jane and Fiona have done everything together since kindergarten, Jane following wherever Fiona will lead. Left devastated and adrift following Fiona's sudden suicide, Jane's only way to make sense of everything is by helping Fiona's widow care for their young son, Bailey. Polar opposites, the two women have nothing in common save for their shared grief and love for Fiona. So we have some guests today. I'm going to let them go around and talk about their connection to the film, and then we'll ask everybody some questions. We'll start with Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly Walker. I'm the writer-director of My Fiona.
Great.
I'm Ryan Garcia. I'm married to Kelly Walker, and I play Alec in the film My Fiona.
Great.
My name is Elohim Nycatove, and I play Bailey in the film.
Okay. As I said, I truly love this film. It's just full of emotion, full of great performances. It just hit me. But Kelly, how did this project come up?
Yeah, so it kind of started when I was 12 years old. My babysitter passed away from suicide, and it turned out there was some sort of mismanagement of antidepressants, and it sounds like it could have easily been avoided. And I remember I was such a young age, this idea that someone could actually take their own life, like that's an actual thing someone can do. And I feel like I turned into an adult, or at least lost my childhood that day. I've had a lot of grief in my life, and I do find that grief, there's this complication of you don't just move through it. You move forwards, backwards, left, right. And when I was coming out as bisexual, I realized there was a lot of almost like an intersection between grief and bisexuality, as far as the gray shades, the way you kind of feel like you're representing yourself, or someone else is labeling you for you, like even the 7 stages of grief, someone else is telling you where you're at in your journey. The same thing with bisexuality. They're telling you, no, you're really into men. You just want, it's just a thing when you're drunk. So I kind of wanted to look at those two themes play out in one story.
Was there any kind of research you did before you jumped into this?
Yeah, I did a lot of research about antidepressants. That one scared me the most. I was reading these case studies that were just being swept under the rug because the pharmaceutical companies could. For an example, there was one lady that was on a trial that tried to kill herself because of the drug.
Sure.
Because she didn't die straight away, she died in hospital 7 days later, they could technically say she didn't die from the drug because she died in hospital. And I was reading stuff like that. And then for Ryan's character, Alec, I worked with a psychiatrist, and we went through the scenes and discussed it all. That was probably the extent of the research. Thinking, yeah, and just I guess, actually, honestly, another thing I did was I went on grief forums and read people's stories, and that one was that was the hardest, I think.
Sure. I want to ask you one more question, then I'm going to start asking the performers some questions. But obviously, Jane and Fiona have been friends for a long time, and then there's a history there. But when Fiona is no longer in the picture, how would you describe the relationship between Jane and Gemma before the suicide?
Jane and Gemma?
Yes.
I feel like they were the kind of, the friend of the spouse that you kind of, you don't love them. I'm sure if Fiona walked out of the room to grab another glass of wine, they would do that small chat, how's the work's going? Good. Yeah, good. They definitely didn't have much of a connection other than Fee. And I think that happens to us a lot because if you're with your friend, you want to spend time with your friend, or you're with your wife, you don't care about the spouse as much. So I think they never really had an opportunity. And I think there was also some judgment they both had for each other, which was most likely because they cared about Fee so much. They were constantly wanting to be the best version of themselves for her, but weren't thinking what that would do to her with the other relationships.
I want to ask you more about the cast. Obviously, a lot of questions about the cast, but I want to talk to performers right now. But I just want to talk to you two and just find out, about your characters and how you sort of shaped your characters and how you saw your characters in this big mix of really great characters. We'll start with the character. I mean, Ryan, tell us a little bit about Alec and how he figures into all this. And
Yeah, I've been with this script for a long time because there's been many rewrites over the years before Kelly landed on the actual shooting script. And so the character of Alec is one that I've been writing alongside with as his role and purpose in the movie has changed and shifted.
Mhm.
And where it landed, for me specifically, like tackling a character like that, um, I think it deals a lot with what it's like to repress things and keep things down and keep secrets, and also to not, I think, be a very left-brained type human being and rationalize things. And I think, I went to school for pre-law before switching over to stick with theater and start a life as an actor. And so the life of Alec felt to me very much like a crossroads in my own life had I stayed the path of going to law school and perhaps going down there and not expanding in the creative sense. I think it was very like clear to me like, oh, this could have been my future. This person who was a little bit more locked in to that profession and that style of living.
Okay, great. I want to ask about Bailey because Bailey has got a lot going on. Bailey is a complicated character, but the character of Bailey. I mean, there's so much to ask because, as I said, this is such an ensemble piece, and everybody has dimensions. And everybody has a relationship with everybody else. But I want to talk about the character of Bailey. I mean, can you talk about, obviously, with the loss of Fiona, how the character of Jane really, with Fiona gone, how does the presence of Jane, what does that do for Bailey?
Yeah, it really helps Bailey connect, and it helps Bailey a lot because he's going through a lot in his head right now. And Fiona, his mom, just died, and a lot of things are going through his head. And I think when Jane comes in, she really helps Bailey and to get him back up on his feet and to start really like making him happy and doing different activities with him. And it's very, very what is the word? She basically makes me happy.
Kelly, is there, when that relationship sort of, develops because of the loss of Fiona, I mean, how does Gemma feel about that? Is it, I mean, as I said, there's just so much in this film, so many dimensions, but is it more of a, I'm glad you're here taking care of Bailey. Why are you near my son? How do you think that Bailey deals with all this going on, with Fiona gone and Jane suddenly being there is sort of another maternal figure?
Yeah, I think it has to be really tough, right? Because it's like you want the help, you need the help.
Mm-hmm.
And for Gemma, I think she wasn't a very present parent.
Yeah.
So she hadn't really had to do any of the stuff that she's all of a sudden having to do. And she's kind of, failing at it in a way that anyone would in that experience. So I think there has to be this dichotomy of this like anger that this person is not only doing it better than you, that your child is relating more to them,
Mm-hmm.
but also this relief to have the help. Really, Gemma should have been the one seeing the therapist.
Yeah. Is there a lot of guilt on Gemma's part and Jane's part because they didn't know some of what was going on?
I don't know if it's as much guilt because like just being in the situation where I've had people since my babysitter passed away from suicide. If you sit in the guilt, it's such a no, it doesn't have anywhere to go. Sure. So I think for them it's more of a, if I have an answer, it will make it hurt less. It's almost like the active idea of trying to figure it out, trying to make sense of it, and also kind of blame each other is in that bedroom scene, which is my favorite scene. It's still the scene whenever I watch it where I'm like, I'm always physically, I feel things physically. Cool, Kel. Yeah, no, I think it's just like not taking ownership. And at the end of the day is you really can't take ownership for someone else's decision. You just can't.
Exactly. So when the performers came aboard, was this script 100%, or did you work with the actors to give them other dimensions, or how did that work?
Yeah, Corbin who plays Gemma, who isn't coming, by the way. She got stuck taking a friend to the airport.
Okay.
Sue Corbin, we love you. Corbin, she had some questions. She really took to Gemma and really like kind of found her Gemma and had some things in the script she wanted to change based on that, which I was all for. So we kind of worked together there. With Elo and Jeanette Moss, who plays Jane, we didn't do rehearsals, but I'll let Elo speak on it. They just kind of formed their own.
Yeah, it was really fun because we didn't actually do rehearsals. We just like performed on our own, and then Callie came in and she gave us some notes, and then we just kept on doing it until we like got it like really solid kind of.
And you guys got really close on set too. We did like a date where I hung back while Jeanette and Elo got to know each other, and I was a little bit jealous because I was like, I want to get to know you. But I knew that it was so important for the two of you to have that bond.
Yeah, we got really close. I mean, even like because when we were going to like play mini golf, it was just it was amazing because I met her and it felt like we were already friends and we already knew each other after it, even though we didn't, like it just felt like a connection right away.
You guys really did. And Jim, I don't know if you know this, but Jeanette Moss passed away in January.
I did. I was going to ask you about that. That is so heartbreaking. She is so absolutely great in this film. But let's talk about the cast. I mean, who was the first person that you brought aboard for this?
I mean, Ryan was always going to be Alec. He still had to audition because producers are producers, and I knew by him auditioning, it would actually make him get the role even more so because they would see what I was seeing in his work, and it was no brainer. So Ryan had been there forever. I think Jeanette, we cast, right? Do you remember? We cast Jeanette first, right?
I believe that's true. I mean, we had multiple table reads of the different versions of this script, and every time we had a table read, Kelly would read the role of Jane.
I was originally going to be Jane
because she was on board. She was on the fence of, am I going to play Jane or am I going to direct? She didn't want to do. If I don't want to speak for you too much here, Kelly, like, she didn't want to do both. But then, so for one read through, we thought, well, hey, Kelly, might be better if you. I think you thought it was for yourself to sit back and watch the actual story play out rather than be in the story for the table read. And we had Jeanette come in and play Jane for that table read, and Jeanette totally ran away with it.
It's such a good lesson for actors too. It's like, even if it's just a table read, you never know what that's going to do. And everyone at that read was like, that's Jane. So while she still auditioned and we saw the tapes, her tape was above and beyond. It was like she was living same way that Elo was in his tape. It was like when we saw their tapes, that was it. There was no one that was even going to rival what they were doing, and they were just living those moments. And they weren't trying to show you what grief felt like or these experiences. They were in it.
You must have cast Jeanette first because she came around and she was the reader for a lot of people in their callbacks.
Yeah,
she came in to do that.
It's true. And then Corbin came through a friend who knew her and was like, she would be perfect. I think I watched like 5 minutes of something she'd done on TV. I was like, there she is. That's it. Moving on. Tick it off the list.
Ella, when you found out you were cast, how did you react?
Well, at first, I was just sitting at home doing homework, and my mom told me I got cast in the movie, and I was like, my head was blown because I mean, this is one of my biggest jobs I've done too, and it seems like a really good movie to do, and I felt like so connected to this character too. It's like one of the most characters I've connected to ever. So it was just amazing. It was phenomenal.
Because I was going to say, I mean, this isn't a simple role. This is a very complicated role, and you're dealing with a lot of grief and confusion and trying to make sense of anything that's going around you. So congratulations to you all.
Thank you.
I want to ask you about the character of Ruth. I mean, can you talk a little bit about Ruth and
Ruth is based on my Nana, but when my Nana watched it, she's like, I don't like that Ruth. And I'm like, it's such a Ruth thing to say. I think a lot of people are closed-minded or things should be a certain way and not the other. And for her closed-mindedness is about grief. It's like, she's totally fine that her daughter's married to another woman. Like, that's not her issue. It's the religion, it's how they do things. It's one of those things we do in when we lose someone, we try to control whatever we can. And Ruth is holding on so tight. April Lang is the name of the actress that plays her. And we saw, again, we had a couple different versions of actors that read for Ruth. And her version was just so delightful. And what's funny about April is I don't think she knows how wonderfully funny she is, which is what makes her so funny.
Yeah.
And we got really lucky with her. And that character, yeah. I mean, I think we all have a Ruth when we have someone pass away. There's always someone that's trying to like rain on already the parade that is already being rained on.
Yeah. When Jane and Jim become intimate, I mean, what else going through their head? Is it just that they're experiencing a loss, that they're trying to make sense of that they need to be there for each other? What do you think all is going through their heads as they embark on this?
I think it's definitely an element of trauma bonding, right? Like for sure. I think it starts as trauma bonding. I think when you lose someone, I've experienced it with Jeanette's fiance, not in the Jane Gemma sense, but like there is a bond that he and I have that he's who I want to go to for every time I'm feeling sadness or loss of Jeanette. And he seems to go to me too. And like, he's got a lot of people, but, so I think at first it is this thing of like, we're the only two people that can sit in silence and know what each other are thinking in this moment.
Sure.
But then I think there is this version of, I think Jane and Gemma actually have the potential to be a relationship. And there we did 3 different endings to see if they get together or not. And we had to do like a voting system, and it turned out that Jane walks away. That scene towards the end of the cemetery, we shot that 3 different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I like to believe in about 7 or 8 years. I think Bailey's got maybe some school play. Jane comes to see it. Gemma's like, do you want to have dinner with us afterwards? And then so it begins. Because I like the idea of them finding each other again. And in a weird spiritual way, what if Fiona was in their lives and then she passed for them to get together? Like, what if that's the big picture, Yeah.
So Kelly and Ryan, I mean, what's it like, having a relationship, but also having a professional relationship? And I mean, what's that like? Is it, do you have to set boundaries in terms of like professional? I mean, how do you manage to make that work?
We've worked really well together, I'd say professionally. I think that's where we started as well. We started as friends in an acting class and got excited about rehearsing together. And through that acting class, started creating short films, and then got asked by a friend to co-direct her short film. And whenever, you know, Kelly, and I teach acting as well. So when Kelly's got a thing she's directing, she'll come to me and ask, hey, what's the best way for me to say this? And I'll be writing something and I'll go to her and say, hey, is this working? So it's actually works really well because we also, while we're both very creative, we facilitate different parts of, I think, production, where Kelly's got such a great director brain and she's an editor by trade.
Sure.
And I'm very much like actor through and through. We're able to support and build each other up in that way. And it doesn't feel like we ever really butt heads.
Okay.
I think there was only one time on the short that we co-directed that he kept taking the monitor over here. And I'm like,
Yeah.
You can't see monitor, buddy.
Yeah.
That's the extent of the tension.
Yeah.
I remember earlier this year, Lisa Rose from Australia we were talking about this film because I think she recommended it to me. And I remember at the time she mentioned to me that the main actress was not in good health. And several months passed, and as I was, booking this and loving it, and I found out that Jeanette had passed, and I was like, wow, because she is just, again, everybody in this film is terrific, but she's just, that character is just so complex, and it's an exhausting amount of work for the actress to go through. But when did you know that Jeanette was not in good health?
She got diagnosed with cancer last April 2020,
Mm-hmm.
but it was never the kind of thing where there was a version of her not living.
Yeah.
That wasn't, I was actually asking Dusty, her fiance, about that 2 days ago, and he agreed. He's like, that just never occurred to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was within like 2 weeks, she just went downhill and that was it. So it was, I think it was 2 weeks before our Queer Screen premiere, which was our first, because we had BFI Flair, but then that COVID canceled that. So it was our first actual theater. And yeah, it's like weird to think back because it's this strange thing, right? Like doesn't go unnoticed that the film is about losing a best friend, and now we've kind of gone through it, and now we're inside of what, you know, Jane's going through. But if you think about that last scene where she writes on the lantern and you know, sets it off, and it's a letter to Fee, or yeah, it's like, in a weird way, that's Jeanette letting us know that it's gonna be it's like, this whole thing has been so weird. But it's almost like she gave us this last gift to get through our experience, to make it slightly easier.
Okay. Elo and Ryan, can you talk a little bit about working with Jeanette?
Go ahead, Ella.
Working with Jeanette, oh my God, it was so amazing. She was just a joy of light, and she was always there for me, and she was always there for everyone. And every time, like, I got, even like when some scenes were like the saddest, after we would like have fun, so much fun after. So weird how she's gone, because she was there. I was holding her hand, and now she's gone, and it's really sad, but she was amazing. She was one of the most beautiful people I've ever met.
And she loved you so much, Elo. She was so lucky to get to work with you.
Yeah, thank you.
I had gotten to work with Jeanette on multiple other projects as well. We played siblings in a different project, and we also were at the same acting studio. And she's just one of the hardest workers behind the scenes. And then when it came to being on set, she would play to like to every edge and every color of the rainbow. And what I love about watching the film is that it really does feel like you get a chance to just spend some time with every aspect of Jeanette, which leads to some laughter and definitely some tears as well, because it just feels like her. It's so much of her up there.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of a performance that goes from A to Z and back to D, and then it's just a very complex role. And you know, and again, the cast is amazing. So obviously COVID hit last year, it affected BFI, but when was it that you were able eventually to see this film with an audience in a theater?
Ryan and I first saw it in Florida at the Florida Film Festival. That was our first time.
Okay.
So that was April, and we hadn't seen it since, at least I hadn't watched it since October 2019.
Okay.
So that's over 18 months. And it was the first time, you know, after also Jeanette passing. So
yeah,
it was definitely emotional. But is it Glennon Doyle? It says we can do hard things, and it was like, yeah, it was hard, but it was also, you know, when you just see it on the Vimeo screener, that's what you've been like used to seeing the visual as, and then you're in a theater and you're like, you've never seen the DCP, and you're like, wait, that's what it looks like? That's what it sounds like? Like, I had no idea. And I was like, oh my God, I got to call my DP, because like, I was like, lady, like, you're talented. Like,
and you're also in a room full of people, and so you're feeling the breath, you're hearing you're feeling the changes in the room, not just hearing the laughter, but feeling when people are completely silent and leaning in. It was really amazing to be a part of that wave of the whole group witnessing it together.
Elo hasn't seen it.
No, I've been waiting for a long time. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna pull it up right here, Ella. You got an hour and a half? I'm just gonna play it on my phone for you right here.
I'm hoping we're gonna get to see it together very, very soon.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I want him to have an actual experience. Like, I want him to have a theater of some sort, or, you know, you only get to see your first like leading role once, see it first once. So I really want that to be special. And
yeah, so the film is doing festivals, started last year and doing festivals right now. Where will what's the future of the film? Where will it go next?
Yeah, so we're at the end of our festival circuit. We can't say anything yet, but it will be available soon.
Oh,
yeah. So you're one of our last couple. Yeah. It's been a short but sweet run, and I feel like I've met so many wonderful filmmakers, so many amazing programmers. Like, even though we haven't been able to be in person too often, even Lisa from Queer Screen, we didn't get to meet, and I feel like I know her. And I think that's the beauty about doing festivals and having these experiences. It's the community you create, and we're so much stronger when we're together.
Okay. So starting with the performers, then getting at you, Kelly, what's next for each of you?
Aloe, what you got?
I don't. I mean, I'm just waiting for the movie so I can see it too. That's next too. But right now, I've been auditioning and I've just been doing all I can to keep myself busy. Like I said earlier, playing music, writing, everything I can, doing classes, homework, and that's just been it. I'm actually doing now. It's confidential, but I'm doing these voiceovers for this certain company, and it's been really amazing. They want me to come back. They want me to come back and keep on doing it. And it's been wonderful.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Ryan?
Aloe and I must have the same agent because I'm also doing a lot of voiceovers right now. I've got a Nickelodeon show called Big Nate coming out in November that I play multiple roles on, and this feature called Fireheart, which is an independent animated feature with Kenneth Branagh, William Shatner, and Olivia Cook that I will be in as well, coming out in January. And an episode of Nickelodeon's Side Hustle coming out October 23rd.
Nice. And Kelly?
I am working on, it was a feature, now it's a limited series called Vice Versa. It's about the first magazine for lesbians, written by Edith Ide in 1947 LA. Randomly stumbled across her story. I'm like, why do we not know about her? It's so uplifting at a time when, you've got the communist fears and everything, and you had to be secret, but she was so hopeful and joyous. And so I'm really excited about that. And then just directed a couple of shorts, writing a couple other projects, starting to listen to my managers. We're like, we need a rom-com spec. I'm like, why do you do this to me? So gonna maybe fall a little into the rat race a bit and sell just this much of my soul.
Nice. I hope that when you do make your next feature, COVID will be at least somewhat more in control. We'd love to have you back. We'll love to have you in Atlanta. Have either of you ever been in Atlanta?
Aloe, you've lived there a lot.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, we actually have a house there. I mean, I've lived there. I mean, I was born in Los Angeles. We went over there because of my dad's work for a long time, about until I was like 6 and 7. Then we went back to Los Angeles to do acting. And we've just been going back and forth because I'm bi-coastal. So yeah, I've been living there for a while.
Nice.
I shot a film out there a couple of years ago that I was acting in, and I fell in love with it. So that's why I was even more bummed I wasn't able to make it this time. So I'm like, it's a place I really like.
What was the film?
It was called Girls Life. It did not get completed. I believe the director burned the hard drives. Because that's what you do. That's what you do.
Okay.
Portrait artists, what can you do?
Oh no, sorry to hear about that. The film is My Fiona. It is in theater. It is also virtual. And again, it's one of my absolute favorites this year. There's just an amazing ensemble cast. Thank you all for the film. Thank you all for joining us today, and continued good luck. I'm looking forward to hearing exactly where the film will be, since there is a big announcement I'm assuming that's coming soon. So thank you all very much.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been amazing. I can't wait to hear how it goes tonight.
And follow at My Fiona Film to find out about where it's going to be.
Will do. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Love you all.
Bye. Have a good day, everyone. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.